Buckle up, everyone, and welcome to Carpool Rugby League, a show where two rugby league tragics talk everything rugby league on your way to and from work. I'm Shano.
I am the chameleon.
Welcome aboard, and on with the show. Griffo, everyone, welcome again to another jam-packed episode of Carpool Rugby League. September's nearing, finals is in the air. We saw some games over the weekend which started to have that finals feel. I suppose, what caught your eye this week, Griff?
Well, I was, this actually caught my eye live. I didn't like it, but that's Harry Grant.
Yep.
He's, I think he's now the smartest player in the NRL. There was another guy who used to wear the same jersey as him, the same number, who was the smartest guy in the NRL for about 15 years or so. I think he's taken over that mantle. I sat in the crowd. It was a great game. Last Thursday night, I'm talking about
Cracking
the
game.
Storm v the Panthers, and it was built up as a going to be sort of game of the season type thing, and it wasn't far off the game of the season. You'd have to think two teams that have met each other many times. They've been the most successful teams of the last decade. And that was a great game. Controversy, obviously, around Harry Grant. And look, he's a smart guy. He knew the rule. I'm not going to whinge about it. The rule was there. He exploited it to the fullest. He ran for Moses Leota, and he had to go. He was running at Leota. He's not going to hit Cleary. He could have. There was an inside passage directly to Cleary, but he wasn't going to get to Cleary. He was going to get to Moses, and so that kept them at whatever the score was. It was a draw at after 80 minutes. Might have been 22 all. I might be wrong on that, but and then after an uncharacteristic error from Dylan Edwards, Melbourne were able to get the ball in Penrith's half, and when it came time for a field goal, all the Penrith boys were expecting a field goal to come. There was just one guy on the field who said, well, we don't want to win by 1 point, we want to win by 4 points. And it was like the parting of the Red Sea. We had Moses up the other end, but unfortunately, Harry Grant, he was just too smart. I've got to give the guy credit. I love the guy as a footballer, especially when he's wearing green and gold. I don't particularly like him when he's wearing purple or maroon, but I've got to say that he's the guy who caught my eye last week.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said there, Griff. That's why I love your insights into the game. It's been a while since I've had a tidbit, and it's one I don't really want to bring up because we've probably bashed it a bit on this show. Payne Haas, his allegiance to Australia no longer there. I really think that the NRL has to start coming out and saying, well, if you're not going to play for Australia, you're not playing State of Origin. And draw a line in the sand a lot earlier than what's happening. We've got what I think is going to be one of the greatest spectacles in rugby league at the end of the year in the Ashes series. Everything out of England says they're ready for it, and we look at Harry Grant's play the other night, and I'm glad he's wearing green and gold, but I'm really getting frustrated with this unknown quantity of who could be and who could not be, and it almost feels like you're hedging your bets. If I'm going to get picked, I'll go one side. If I'm not going to get picked, I'll go another. And then it's like I'll have my cake and eat it too. I'll play a few games for one, and then I'll play a few games for another. I think I think at the end of seasons, I think seasons end, the NRL really need to start coming up with a better scenario than the one they got. I said we've bashed on this for a while now, and I'm not going to say anything more than that. But no, Griff, am I being too hard?
Well, Shane, it may make for a better podcast if I disagreed with you, but I don't.
I know you don't. I know you don't. I know you don't.
Yeah, look,
I just think it's. Yeah.
I won't say I'm disappointed Payne Haas has pledged his allegiance to Samoa.
No.
I'm not just, like...
No, if that's your heritage,
under the rules, it's his
that's
choice.
fine. Yeah,
like,
of course.
I think there's a problem with the rules when after you've represented one country and you've got a few of those jerseys hanging up in your wardrobe, you think, oh, okay, I've got a bit more space in my wardrobe. I've got a lot more money now because I've been playing in the NRL, so I get a bigger wardrobe. I think I might have a few other jumpers to put in there as well.
Yeah.
Now, that sounds like I am criticising Payne Haas. It's not him personally. It's the situation that allows for that to happen. Now, I can't question the guy's motivation. Obviously, he, in his heart, wants to represent the country of his ancestry, not the country of his birth, not the country where he grew up, but of his ancestry, and that's okay. We've both got ancestries.
Yep.
From different countries, and we both are proud of our ancestry.
Yep.
And so we should be, and so he should be. But we're talking about international sport, and I don't know too many other sports where you can just flip and flop from putting on the shirt of one country and all of a sudden next competition you're playing it for another country. And that's, again, it's no criticism of Payne Haas or anyone who's, done it or may do it. But and it's good for the international game, and I love international rugby league. I want to see it flourish because, the bigger your market, the bigger the games you've got, the stronger your game gets. So, yeah, I support that. But I'll totally agree with you on, and I know we've talked about this before, with the fact that, well, okay, if you're not pledging your allegiance to Australia, that's okay, but you cannot represent the Queensland Maroons or the New South Wales Blues.
Yeah.
You're foregoing that. And yes, you can be passionate about those states where you were born and where you grew up and who you supported when you turned the TV on, when the state of origin, was on your TV. You thought, well, gee, I want to be a Maroon one day, or I want to be a Blue one day.
Mm.
Well, the reality is that Queensland is in Australia, New South Wales is in Australia.
Yep.
And even though I've got heritage in, quite a number of countries with my ancestry, and I've actually got a passport of another country as well, where I'm, a citizen, first and foremost, and always, I'm going to be Australian.
Yep.
This is my country where I was born. This is the country where I grew up. When I switch the TV and I watch international sport, I'm supporting a team that's wearing green and gold, especially if it's rugby league, the sport that I love the most. I want the Australian team to be the top team in the rugby league world, and I know it is, and I know it has been for a while, and I know, and I don't mind competition at all. I want to see that. And that's why I say, well, okay, these blokes want to go play for Samoa or Tonga or England.
Yes.
Billy Smith, which, that quite shocked me when I knew the Haas thing was happening, but all of a sudden Billy Smith's pledged his allegiance to England. And again, he's got an ancestry there. I heard both his parents from England, but he's from here. He grew up here. He's got an Australian accent. Mind you, accents can go with this way or another. But when he looks in the mirror, who is he? He's an Aussie. I'm sure he's got an Australian passport. But again, that's his choice. What I don't want to see is every international team just be made up of players who play in the NRL who were born and bred in Australia.
Yeah, I
like, what
yes.
sort of international competition is that?
Yep.
It's Australia v Australia.
Yep.
Check the passports. Like,
there was I can't think of his name now, but someone actually wrote that in an article. Can't think of the paper now. Basically saying that, like...
Well, the AFL could do the same thing.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And
we're going to have
and they said, we don't want to see an international competition where it's made up of, like, you play for a country, but you're born in Australia. It's just that in the end, you get none of the local talent playing, which I don't think that's quite a healthy system either.
No.
So anyway,
I saw a list of a possible English team to say, in the Ashes, and they had a few asterisk guys there. They included Billy Smith, Victor Radley, not with an asterisk, but they had Ethan Strange, and I think it was Blake Brayley, who, look, you go through it, you find a whole heap of guys from Australia who would qualify for England. Like,
really?
What?
That's amazing.
So, with Ethan Strange, I know his sister, who plays for the Roosters, she has pledged her allegiance to England.
Okay.
Now, for whatever reason, I think apparently their mother might be English, or they qualify.
Oh.
As I said, almost anyone can qualify. Like,
very true.
But to actually do it, do you feel in your heart, like, I've lived my whole life in Australia. I've gone to school here. I've grown up here. I'm born here, but I don't feel Australian. Really?
Yeah,
I don't think so.
The argument seems a bit flawed at times, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Anyway,
and look, I want to see England strong. I want to see, a strong Ashes series, but not an Ashes series where you just finding anyone who's got an English heritage living in Australia.
Yeah,
they could play the league, okay? Oh, yeah, we'll put them in.
Yeah.
That's not England v Australia.
No. And that doesn't make for healthy competition. And it doesn't make their competition any healthier either.
No.
And that's what we're trying to do. I think, looking at their competition, it's I'm an avid watcher of it when I can. It's taking a bit of a hit recently in quality, and I think, I think we've got to do something different to bump it up. But there was a few games on the weekend that we can go through. The one you mentioned, of course, on Thursday night: Panthers 18, Storm 22, Warriors 14, Dragons 10, Roosters 32. Very, very comprehensive and becoming dangerous over the Dogs 12. Sharks 54, Titans 22. Broncos 38, Dolphins 28. South Sydney 20 beat Parramatta 16. West Tigers 26 beat the Seagulls 12. That's a telling insight into the Seagulls season at the moment, I think. And the Cowboys 38 beat the Knights 4. And I have not seen a team want to throw a game away as much as the Knights did. I think I
watched a couple of minutes and I switched it off. I can't. There are two teams I don't want to watch play.
Well,
Boys and the Knights.
I think it got to the point where 3 tries the Knights have bombed, and they're now by 22. Like, they just, Anyway, the ladder looks a bit like this. The Raiders are up on top on 40 points. Storm on 38. Dogs 36. Warriors 32 round out the 4. Now in 5th we got the Panthers on 31. Broncos and Sharks on 30. Roosters 28. Dolphins 26. Seagulls and West Tigers 24. Dragons 22, Cowboys 21, Eels 20, Bunnies 20, Knights 18, and on 16 you have the Titans. I'd argue at the moment that the Titans are playing better not footy than the Knights. So if they can jag a win somewhere, that would help them to no end. So yeah, it was look, a great week of football. It must be said. You know, I thought the Roosters stood up. They really played. They played phenomenally. The game you were at was it's up in the top 5 of this year. That game, and the team that got the bye, the Raiders, they're just sitting in the wings watching it all unfold. There was some very good football and the football by some of the lower teams on the ladder was actually very good as well. So, you know, you talk about healthy competitions. It's what we got. What we're going to do now, we're just going to change tack a little bit. Just quickly go through the women's NRL games coming up. Yeah, it's becoming a very interesting competition. It's almost like anyone can win on their day, depending on the situation. Before we get to the men's game, women's rugby league this week, Dogs play Raiders. We've got 8th versus 12th. Dogs are looking very good at the moment. They're playing some decent football. They're playing football that would definitely outclass the Raiders. Yeah, I've got the Dogs winning this one. Griff, what do you reckon?
I'll be honest with you, Shane. I've not watched too much.
Yep.
Of the NRLW. I did watch the mini of the Roosters and the Knights.
Yep.
Which looked like it was a reasonable game. I've got to say, a lot of these other teams, they might be competitive against some teams, but it's developing really into I was going to say a 2-horse race, but it's 1 horse and 1 rooster. And the rest of the teams are just literally, they're making up the numbers.
That's not...
It's a concern because...
I agree with you.
Like, I don't know, I assume there's no salary cap. Because what I heard somewhere that the Broncos are looking to sign Jesse Southwell.
Yep.
The Knights halfback. So, if she were to go to the Broncos, then literally it would be a 2-team competition. And I think there's 12 teams. Something like that.
There is.
Like 10 of the teams are just wasting their time. It's not.
I'm glad you brought this up, because I was actually going to bring this up after the tips, but we'll do it now because I think it's fair. I agree with you, and the reason why I started brushing over the tips is because of that exact reason, right? We got the Roosters and Broncos, and not only are they out in front on the competition ladder doing their thing, they're playing rugby league that's just far above and beyond that of the teams below them. My idea for this, and just go through it quickly, is that basically you have, as part of your roster, you have 3 tier 1 players. So they're players you actively buy. They're the players you buy. They're the players that you earn. They're yours, right? So you have you're probably going to be captain. That's that person. You got, and then your 2 best players, right? And they're the players you go out and actively seek and buy. What you then have is 3 more barrels of players that you cannot just dip into holus bolus. You can only have a certain number of players from the group 2. And you can only have a certain number from group 3, group 4, group 5. What I think that does is it's hard to generate a salary cap in this competition because we don't really know, like the value of certain players is just, it's light years compared to others. So in the NRL, we've got that in the NRL, but I think in the women's game is slightly different. I think if we were to put certain players into pools based on their overall performance of the previous years, you could then have, then what you do is you say, all right, we've got to negotiate for these players. I think what it does then is it then spreads the load. It's like a pseudo draft maybe, but where the team has some sort of, I suppose the team has some sort of control. The only stipulation, the only thing I've got outside of this is that if you create a player, if you bring a player up through your junior system, you're allowed to have them in any capacity. I think if we started pooling players like this and spreading the players around the clubs, I think we get a far more even competition. You can't have a competition where the top teams once is undefeated and the Raiders and Tigers have won one game.
Well, they got their first win last week.
Yeah. And the other thing is, like the only time they're probably going to get another one is if they play each other again. It's one of those. I think we've got to start thinking of a better system. I agree with you. I think if we could get if we could get those players distributed across all the teams, I think the NRL have expanded too quickly. I think they've expanded the wrong teams. I think they've invited the wrong teams in this competition. I can think of 4 teams that don't really have a strong women's background. I think they were invited because of their location before thinking about how they generate a team. Yeah, I think the NRL, if they had their time again, they might have done this slightly differently because the top 4 teams, maybe the Sharks can dip into that too, can all play very good football. I don't think anyone outside of the Broncos is beating the Roosters. The Broncos could get beaten by the Knights Cowboys. Sharks I think have played a bit better than what they're sort of their worth, but everyone below the Sharks, their defence is not great. So yeah, I think I'm with you. They need another system. But look, I'll take you through the games quickly. Titans, Dragons, that's on Saturday. Titans for me. Look, Roosters play the Eels. Roosters will win that. Broncos playing the Knights on Sunday. Broncos will win that, in my opinion. Sharks against the Warriors. Like I said, I think the gap between those sides is bigger than what we think, especially in defence. So the Sharks there. Cowboys play the Tigers. Cowboys will win that one. So I think, yeah, it's funny. I've talked to a lot of people, Griff, and how am I going to put this without? The interest in the women's game isn't as strong as what it has been. And I think that maybe that's because the quality of the top games is brilliant. Like it's phenomenal. But once you start getting down a bit, yeah, I think it gets a bit it does get a bit
well, it's an important game.
It is, of course it is.
On Sunday for the competition with the Knights playing the Broncos. Now,
yes,
I don't expect Newcastle going to win, but they're a chance.
I think they're a chance. I think that Newcastle, I think, have some very key. Newcastle has some very good players in some very key areas. I don't think they've got it across the park
they don't.
like the Broncos. That's the problem, and I think that's the Broncos and the Roosters. They've got it across the park, and I think that's the problem. And I think if we had a system where players were pulled, we might, I don't know. The last thing you want is a situation like you have sometimes in America where a player has to go to a team that they just don't want to go to. But you're playing in the NRL. Like, I was never anywhere near good enough. Not even contemplating this type of rugby league. I think if you got offered a job, you'd take it with both hands. But we've got the NRL on Thursday night kicking off at 7:50, where the Rabbitohs take on the Dragons. I suppose there is the biggest in for South Sydney if he takes the field, and there's every indication that he will be. Keon Kolomatangi at prop. Havili back in as hooker, starting hooker that is, which has put Peter Mamazelos to the bench. Brandon Smith on the bench and Cody Walker on the bench.
There's a lot of hookers there.
Yes, a lot of hookers there.
Yeah.
Brandon Smith last week played lock for a while and did quite well, to be fair to him. But again, jumped into dummy half at times and did very well. Havili the same. I think they've got to just cover. Yeah, I'd say Brandon Smith is there as a lock cover for Lachlan Hubner. The Dragons, Hame Sele, Hamish Stewart, and Jack DeBellin out. Interestingly, when the games for this week came out, South Sydney were paying $2 something. I want to say $2.40, and maybe the Dragons were at a $1.60, something to that effect. As soon as team lists come out, that flipped. So obviously, looking at looking at their side, they're definitely down on troops. Someone said anytime Ben Murdoch-Masila gets a run, you're in a bit of trouble, and that came from a Dragons fan, by the way. So I'm not a Dragons fan. I don't have any. I'm just saying that's what a Dragon fan told me. Look, this is going to be an interesting game. It's one where at Accor Stadium they're counting down the tries for Alex Johnson, 3 away to equal Ken Irvine. If he gets a couple this week, you'd think it's going to happen very shortly. Look, you guys know which side I'm going to pick South Sydney. Dragons played some good football of late too. To be fair, if South Sydney had played in the last 2 weeks the kind of intensity like they had against the Sharks, they wouldn't have been in the doldrums they're in now. They've been injury ravaged, but attitude is what's taken a big turnaround for them. I've got South Sydney winning this one. You guys know why, but St George Illawarra have been playing some decent football. I just think that they're some very big names out of their side, and that could mean, and big names just keep falling out. They're actually only named 21 players this week, so that's all they've got in their roster, and I know how that feels. Griffo, what's your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, look, it's not game of the century here, but what I will say is 2 teams are having a crack. Both of them have been savaged by injury, particularly the Rabbitohs, but as the 2 teams line up, they're both missing a lot of players. And the poor old Dragons, they played really well last week. To have, in the first half, 2 guys clash heads, knock each other out
I know.
in one play, and then lose another forward to a Cat 1 concussion. That was real. That made it really hard for them. But they gave the Warriors a good run. Warriors probably it was a contentious try that Coach Flanagan, rightfully so, I think, was somewhat bemused by.
I agree.
I don't rate the Dragons, but I've got to credit them for having a go. They won a few games against higher ranked teams. I'm not actually going to tip them. I don't know, if they're going to win. South's form has been quite good. I thought both the Titans and the Eels would beat the weakened Rabbitohs, but they've got the job done. Jai Gray is just playing great football.
He is. I was just going to bring him up. He's been outstanding. Like when he was leading Daly M earlier this year, you could tell why. I know. I'd never talk. I don't want to step on the shoes of the Griffo grab. But last week, as a South Sydney fan, the thing that South Sydney were missing whilst he was out, and what caught my eye, was there was a set of 6 where he did a try-saving tackle. He then, the next tackle, he covered to basically save a try again, and then he positioned himself for a kick and ran it outside 10 metres. It was just, without Jai Gray, there was a try that was there every time. Like, the guy just has so much enthusiasm for the game. And I think when he does that kind of things, it pumps out. South Sydney's been a confidence side since 1908. Where, you want to beat South Sydney, get a try just allowed. Like, give them knock the ball out of their hands as they're going over. The minute they get their head down, you've got South Sydney. And I think that Jai Gray just brings this different energy that's, I love him. As a fan, I just think, and
well, friggin', I've been sitting here.
Friggin' the bloody rugby. I hope to God he doesn't take the money. Good luck to him if he does that. I don't mean that in an awful way, but yeah, I just think that I think that he's the future of our club. I remember saying that when I saw people like Alex Johnson come through with Adam Reynolds and they needed a leader, and they had people like Burgess and Inglis and Dylan Walker back in, you see Dylan Walker, and these were guys that you'd watch, and Isaac Luke was leading, and these were guys you just go, Tyrrell, and they were the 2014 grand final side that South built from the ground up, like Penrith have done for years. And I think that this is, we've finally got a team in people like Jai Gray, Tallis Duncan, Tyrone Munro, who had a cracking game last week. Crap game the week before, but cracking game last week. Keon Kolomatangi, let's not forget Cam Murray, who's out at the moment. Mamazelos, these are the people that they can start to build around. And I think his play's infectious, and it's no coincidence that South Sydney look like a bag of crap without him, and when he's on the side, they look a vastly different rugby league team.
Well, I was sitting there, Shane, thinking that this guy is not just loved by South Sydney supporters, but everyone can get around this guy because they see courage.
Yeah.
He's a really little guy playing way above his weight, doing really good things. And it's fair to say that a lot of people are not huge Latrell fans, for a variety of reasons, some of which he's brought on himself, but but they see in this guy a guy who gives 100%, every minute of every game. And Latrell is a marvellous player. He doesn't seem to play very often for a variety of reasons. He seems to, I don't know. When I heard he wasn't playing last week, I thought, what's happening now?
Pinched nerve, apparently.
Okay. And, you know...
I know that the people on... I've got my hands in the air. You can't see that, but I've got my hands in the air.
Yeah, he does. He's had his hands in there. It's like Mitchell Moses. Right? At the moment, he's got his hands in there.
Sam Bacco. Remember Sam Bacco used to put his hands in the air when people were taking a penalty kick?
Yeah, but, you know, I've been saying for a few years that I thought Latrell should be playing in the centres,
100%.
even before the emergence of Jai Gray. Why Jai Gray was moved from number one when he was leading the Dally M's in that position and Souths were going really well, I don't understand. I think Latrell played in the centres, not last week because he was injured, but was the game against the Titans?
Yeah, great.
Did a good job. Like, I can't remember whether I watched the mini of that or watched the whole game, but Latrell is a guy who has touches that win games. He doesn't have that many, but that's why I don't see the need for him to be at fullback. And you know, if you want him to attack over the other side, do it. The guy's got amazing hands.
Well,
he just doesn't have the... I was going to say the ticker, but that's not the right word. That's unfair to him. He doesn't have the level of fitness to be what a fullback needs to be now in 2025. He is still an elite talent, and he still makes a difference playing in the centres, and he can roam. And I don't know why you do
Casey McLean for you guys does.
Yeah.
You see him sometimes. He moves around. And yeah, I agree with you, Griffin. I suppose bringing up Casey McLean, that's our first Friday night game, 6 o'clock. I know when they did the planning of it, they knew they could not predict what was going to happen. But, this is Panthers Raiders. This is old school rugby league. Why we got it at 6 o'clock? Oh, maybe because it's at Mudgee. I don't know.
I think, to be fair, like, Canberra weren't expected to be a force this year.
I know, but it's Canberra Penrith. Like, that's
my
history.
No, I can't, you know. No one.
I know, Griff. I know, Griff. That's why I love you. You're the voice of reason. Can I just say Casey McLean is slowly becoming one of my favourite rugby league players. That chase last week, it was absolutely phenomenal. He nearly stopped
the try.
Talk about ticker. He's
nearly stopped the try.
And pace, like he is becoming one of my favourite rugby league players. Penrith play the Canberra Raiders at Glenwillow Oval in Mudgee. I have been there. It is a great place to watch rugby league. If you're within Cooee of Mudgee, go out and have a look. So basically, if you live in Gulgong,
I think it's sold out.
Yeah,
you can have a look, but you can't
get a game. I could understand why. Jeez. Tell you what, mate, it's going to be cold out there. It's a bit chilly. Big in for Penrith, Isaiah Yeo. Back in the side. I know he's listed at number whatever, but I think if he's half a chance of playing, he'll get up there. Everyone else that's in that's an in is on the bench for both these sides. They look. You've got 1 versus 5. In most competitions, when you say that, you'd think, oh, okay, you got the front runner versus something. No, these are two sides of at the moment equal, if not Panthers slightly ahead. Last week was a lesson that Penrith had to have against a competition front runners. It's that classic game of where are we at, and we are very close to being on the top. I thought Penrith last week, they played an exceptional game of rugby league. Liam Martin's named in the second row. Any news on that, Griff? In Fanland? Like, I know that quite often we get sent correspondence regarding players and fitness and what happened. Liam Martin, all good?
They used to do an injury report.
Yeah.
Like a video from the physio Pete Green.
Yep.
But they haven't done that for a couple of years.
Okay. But do we...
Yeah, they talk about where people were at with their injuries.
So I suppose we're looking at Liam Martin in the second row, just assuming he'll play because he...
Well, he played last week.
Yeah, cool. I just thought he's a bit off.
No, I don't. I've not heard anything that he's in doubt. I know he did have an injury that kept him out for a couple of weeks.
Yep,
but
he's
played the last two.
I heard something different, slightly different.
I'm not disputing
after the game, so that's cool.
Okay.
I'm taking his in because if he's in, this team 1-13 is a cracking rugby league side, and when you've got a guy called Isaiah Yeo looking like he might come in, Penrith are just on fire. I'm not going to talk too much about Penrith because that's the job of the Chameleon. Canberra Raiders, on the other hand, they had a week off last week. What a great time to have a bye in this type of competition. Last week we looked at Penrith and the Storm to look at where each one of these teams are at. This is the time. This is the week for the Raiders. The Raiders will have this is the litmus test for them to see where they are at. KO Weeks, what can he do at fullback? Can he get them on the front foot? Ethan Strange, Jamal Fogarty, they're going to have the ball on a string on Friday night. They're going to have to make sure that ball is perfectly placed in the right areas. And Tom Starling and Corey Horsburgh, almost called him something else there.
Corey Horsburgh,
yeah. I almost called him something else there. That would have, that's the stage name of someone else, I'm sure of it. They'll have to tighten up the middle. It's made for people, this game, like Joseph Tarpany, Hudson Young. They're playing some great football. Josh Papali'i, well, mate, they might as well give him a seat in Parliament. He's just that much a part of Canberra. Sebastian Chris, Matthew Timoko, they're going to get a lot of traffic coming their way as well, and it's going to be the job of Jed Stewart and Xavier Strange to really tighten up those edges because they're up against the likes of people like Brian or Casey McLean, Isaac Tago, Thomas Jenkins. I know the game before this one. There's a game on Thursday that I want to watch. There's a small part of me that says this is the game as a rugby league fan I'm excited for, Griff. Talk to us about your beloved Penny Panthers from the Darug Trot.
Look, obviously I'm tipping Penrith to win. Yeah. If I was a neutral, I would tip Canberra. Based on the fact that they are leading the competition, they've had a very stable 17. They haven't had a lot of injuries, and that stability has seen them lead the competition. They've got attacking weapons all over the place, great pace. Fogarty's got a great kicking game. Strange has got a great running game. Strong forward pack. There's really no weakness, you would think. Certainly not in attack. They're a very strong attacking side. Matt Timoko, from time to time, does have some defensive issues, and I think he will be someone who gets targeted. I do think if Isaiah doesn't play, it's going to be much more difficult for the Panthers. Penrith have got a bit more speed now. You mentioned Casey McLean earlier. It's been something they haven't had a lot of over the last few years, even though they had great success. I like the fact that with McLean out there, Blaze Talongi at 5'8", there's a lot of pace. They're not as quick as the Canberra backline, but they wouldn't be too far. I mean, Savage and Weeks are real speedsters. I did read somewhere where, this was before the Melbourne game, but I think McLean was clocked at the 4th fastest in the NRL this year.
I'll tell you what, I'd love to see the 3 above him.
Look,
he's
there are some, I mean, like Xavier Savage, Kyle Weeks,
Yeah.
Saab's really quick. Kohler,
Yeah,
Kohler's probably, he might be quicker than all of them, but it would be great to see a top 8 just do a sprint, full kit.
Yeah, like they used to do.
Happen. I know they used to do it.
Remember that? That was great.
Yeah, but everyone wants to see it. I mean, you could put it on grand final day, and obviously, guys, if they're in their grand final, they're not going to do it. But it'd be something. It'd be something. Yeah, because there's speed, and then there's speed in the game. Obviously, Colts, he's a speedster.
What
McLean run him down, but when you're holding the ball, you can't run as quick. So
no, but the other thing with McLean, and I've seen it, and this is why for me he's one of my new favourite players. Is what I've seen in him this year is when he's always been quick, right? He's quick over, and KO Weeks does this really well too. They look quick over a distance, but their first 20, it's like the guy who I rate over the first 20 meters, and I just think, it absolutely, it's made. Sometimes it's made for different builds, but the guy who I love is Tyson Frizzell. That ability just to have this plosive run, where your first 20 is you just get to top speed so quick, and back in the day we used to attribute this to forwards doing this. Pulatua and Nullival we're brilliant at this. Burgess in some ways. The Raging Bull, Gordon Tallis. It's now that the really good centre and winger who just explode out of the blocks, and it's like they're just as quick in the first 20 as they are in the next 80. And that, for me, is what these people like Weeks and McLean do so well. It's not that they just get there so quick, and it's so strong. I just love it. I think it's something that's revolutionising the play, and it just means that they can get, once they get through that line. It's the Pappenhausen is brilliant at it. Like, I just love it. I just love watching it. And I think we're just seeing this week we've got two of the experts at it on either side.
There was one other guy I forgot to mention in the speed caper, and that's the Hammer.
The Hammers are the other one. Yeah, of course. Yeah, Hammer's brilliant.
It's really important for Penrith to win this game. When you look at ladder, I think there were the Broncos who will pick up the 2 points against the Knights. They will go past them if Penrith lose. So that's a give. There's no way that the Broncos are going to lose to the Knights.
No.
The Sharks have got the bye, so they will go past Penrith. They're on 30. So Penrith could drop to 7th. Will drop to 7th, not could. There's, the Sharks have got the 2 points, and the Broncos playing the Knights. That's the closest thing you're going to get to a bye. So it's very important for Penrith. They're not guaranteed a spot in the 8 yet. They're on 31. Potentially, the Dolphins, if they win all 3 games, could take. And I'm assuming the Roosters will win a couple to go past 31. So Penrith's got to get another win just to confirm a spot in the 8. But they don't want to just be in the 8. They've got aspirations to make the 4, in which case they've got to win every game. And they need the Warriors to drop a point.
Can I give you my theory on what'll happen with the Panthers? And it's your team, but this is what I think.
No, go ahead.
Right? Panthers' last bye was Origin. I think if Penrith that Penrith's last game of the year is against the Dragons. You know what? If I finish 4th or 5th, I wouldn't care. I would rest my players. I'd rest as many players as I could, and if I could finish 5th or 6th, that guarantees me a home game, week 1. It doesn't give me another bite of the cherry, but I don't think Penrith need it. I reckon if they... I wouldn't gamble the week off the next week winning over resting my players, finishing 5th or 6th. I think they're going to finish 5th or 6th, I think, regardless of this week. They're playing the Dragons, which they could win with the side they field anyway. They are in such a good spot for me. They are in such a good spot. If they could rest some significant players last round, I think we're going to see them. And we know the finals is another competition. They will beat anyone below them. They can beat most above them. I don't think the Panthers need to finish in the top 4. I think if they finish somewhere where they get a home final week 1, look, if they finish 4th, good on them. That's fine. But I'm just saying, I can see them resting a whole bag of players in the last round, regardless of where they're at, unless they're in 7th or 8th, which I doubt they're going to be. But
it's a fair theory. I'm sure they're not subscribing to it. I'm sure they want to be top 4, because reality is, if they were 5th, likely 8th team is the Roosters. Roosters are a dangerous team at the moment.
Yeah.
I think they'd rather be playing, and if they were 5th, they'd be playing the Raiders most likely in Canberra.
You know what? If Penrith,
I think they'd rather do that with the potential to get a week off.
Of course, but my thing is, if Penrith win this week, I think Storm will be minor premiers.
Yeah, I mean, we've been through.
We've already had it on a podcast on this.
And the reality is, Shano, what we came up with.
It's been blown
out
of the water already.
Yeah, so you can't really predict. What I expect to happen is the Storm will rest their players in the last round. They play the Broncos, and I think that'll give the Broncos 2 points, because I can't see the Storm. They've not had a bye for a long, long time. Probably even
they're like you guys. They're like you guys. Yeah.
They will rest their players, which will unfortunately give the Broncos 2 points. So I do think the Raiders will take out the minor premiership.
Yeah.
I think this is a tough game for the Raiders, but from memory they had 2 relatively easy games to lead into the finals. I mean, we're speculating.
No, of course.
We come back next week and there could be results, which just again throws everything we've said out the window. But that's what we're here to do.
That's
speculate,
what
give our opinion.
This is what floats our boat, doesn't it?
Sometimes we're right.
Sometimes we're right. Sometimes we're wrong, and
and
those that listen, well.
But I'm tipping Penrith more out of the fact that I'm a Panthers guy, and I have tipped against them this year at various stages. Because to be fair, early in the season they were pretty poor, but they're in good form now. Young will make a difference. I'm sure they would have really been smart as a result of last week's loss. It was a game they should have won. They were in position to win, and normally,
intercept
when they're in position to win, they do win, but they didn't get the 2 points, which will give them a little bit more hunger. They will be, I'm sure they'll have the Storm not at the forefront of their mind, because they don't play them this week, but they will be expecting somewhere down the track to come up against the Melbourne Storm. Again, it may be the grand final. We shall see. What's the next game, Shane?
Well,
I think it's another big one.
Well, incidentally, I don't think I'm tipping Penrith.
Oh, okay. I know we didn't get your tip.
No. And only because I think Penrith went through last week what the Raiders have to go through this week, and Penrith have done it. So I think they're a bit more seasoned than the than the Raiders. This Friday night. Friday just delivers.
It's a big Friday night.
It's a big Friday. We love big Fridays. I love a good.
I did hear a journo who generally I don't agree with, but I do agree with him.
I love a good Friday. Yep.
He said this is the biggest night of Friday night football since 1908, and I don't normally agree with that gentleman who has been a long-time Telegraph reporter, but I think he's actually right on this one.
Yeah, I agree. And 8:00. We see the Melbourne Storm taking on the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs. Look, I suppose for the Storm, the big one is Ryan Pappenhausen's named, albeit on a reserve bench with Big Nelson, just above Craig Bellamy if you're watching it on your NRL NRL app. So Ryan Pappenhausen, Big Nelson named. Be interesting to see if they actually play. Look, for the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs, everyone else is on an extended bench. Interestingly, Toby Sexton, number 19, and look, This is just such an interesting game, I think. It's last week the Storm. For me, no disrespect to Storm. For me, the turning point in that game was an intercept.
Yeah.
I thought that if
definitely the turning point.
That was the turning point, and that wasn't the Storm's creation. They sort of were the beneficiaries from it. On the other hand, the Bulldogs at times last week just looked out of their depth. They have this game in them, the Dogs. It's like their awakening game where they sort of run into on the field and they think they're going to win and they don't. They go back and they train hard for a week and they just explode out of the blocks. I'm so looking forward to this game. I think this is like the game before it. This is Good Friday for me. Every Friday is a Good Friday, by the way, as far as I'm concerned. But this is just brilliant. I'm salivating at the fact we're watching these games. The Storm, I think, are going to have it. And if the Paps fit and Big Nelson makes his way into the team, that's just going to add some size, some grunt, and some speed that I think the Storm were lacking last week. The Storm, Harry Grant was doing his best to create opportunities, and there was just no one there to capitalise. And that's no disrespect. That's no disrespect to people like Tyron Wishart who were trying to get in and around. Cameron Munster doing his thing. I just think that, you know what? The Pap is just someone that's different. He can just sniff out what's happening. This is a game where Matt Burton and Lockie Galvin need to own. And Lachlan Galvin, I'm no hate to the kid. I think he's a brilliant player. But geez, mate, prove why you've kicked Toby Sexton out of this team. You need to own this club. You need to drive it round, and you need to put people like Stephen Crichton, Bronson Sherry into space. You need to get the ball wide to Viliami Kikau early. This is your game to do it. Because if you fail on this stage, it's going to look so horrible in about 5 weeks' time. I've got the Storm winning. I just can't see the Dogs. The Dogs bounce after a lose. I just don't think they're going to bounce that high. I don't think it's going to be a massive win by the Storm under the side they've got. But if the Pap and Big Nelson come in here, geez, they could really assert they could really assert their dominance. Max King's just going to have to fire up. I'm looking for a massive defensive effort from Jamin Salmon. that dog's he's got to really tackle. I think that the bench is going to have to step up. Kurt Mann, Josh Curran, they're the people in it. Reed Marnie's there for a reason. I think that he's going to be the guy that if there's any cracks in his side, he's straight in defensively. Yeah, I just got the Storm, Griff.
Yeah, I'm going to tip the Storm. 1-17, they're well below their best side, and they look beatable. But it's pretty much the 1-17. Well, not quite. Garlick wasn't there. They had Sean Bloor. I don't think Garlick will play. I think, actually looking at it, maybe he will play. But I do think Big Nelson will make his way.
I agree.
I don't think Garlick will play because I think Pappenhausen, if he plays, he'll go to fullback.
That'll shift. That's right. That'll shift. Can I say, Griff? I'm making the assumption Pat plays.
Yeah.
I think he's fit. I think Big Nelson's not 50-50. He'd be 80-20. It's whether you want to sacrifice an 80-20.
Well, he's played the last 2 weeks.
Player. It's whether you want to sacrifice him this week. I don't know. But Pap will play. I think Pap will play.
Well, one thing the Melbourne Storm have got, and Queensland have got, is a guy on the wing who is just phenomenal at what he does.
Big dude.
Xavier Coates.
Big dude.
The Broncos must be, thinking, why do we ever let that guy go?
We were talking about this on the weekend. I was talking with a group of people. It's like Xavier Coates is like, fine, I'll go to Melbourne, and the Broncos are like, we'll go then.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Under the current rules, he's almost unstoppable. Now,
yeah, that's very true.
That rule's got to be looked at.
I know.
There was a game, not with Coates involved. It might have been the previous week, where Teague Wilton, it was the Sharks and the Dragons.
Yep.
Teague Wilton went up. Sloan went up to get the ball as well. Didn't get the ball, but miraculously, because Sloan's always had a big criticism is his inability to stop tries. I thought he did a great job, and they gave a penalty try, which was,
I know.
To me, was absolute nonsense.
I don't know the answer.
Well, the answer is, if it ain't dangerous, you're going for the ball. You don't get the ball, then you've got the right to stop that guy scoring. Now, you know what's dangerous and what isn't dangerous. Like,
can I make my suggestion? This is my suggestion. Please. You can tackle a player in the air in a scoring position as long as it's 1-on-1.
Yeah. But again,
you know what I mean?
Without any danger. Like, you can't take the legs out.
No, you can't knock the... And I think that's... Yeah, like typical NRL. Like, they went from 0 to 100 in milliseconds.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, there were some really dangerous...
There were some horrible attacks. But I genuinely think that if you're a player who's catching the ball in the air in any position on the field and one player grabs you, that's fair game. The minute a second player grabs you, okay, that's... I don't want to see what we used to see when a player would go up and they just let him catch it and 3 or 4 people would just grab him midair and throw him to the ground. That's not what you want to see. I think if in fairness, someone 1-on-1 grabs you in the air and gets you to the point where they hold you up and drag you over the sideline, well, that's fine. It's 1-on-1. I think...
Well, that's what someone held up Wilton.
That's what I thought, under the rule I'd like to see, that's fine.
Yeah.
Because you got a guy like Xavier Coates, who's how heavy? Like, I might just see. I'll click on him here. I'll see his stats. Like, he's huge. Like, he's 108 kilos, 194 centimeters. Fucking, you're not.
And he can jump. Like,
you can jump. You're not going to hurt the guy. You're not going to hurt him. Like, he's massive.
Yeah. Anyway, I
massive
mean,
human being.
we've got the rules as they are.
Don't like it.
Melbourne, they are the masters of using the rules to the nth degree, and you cannot be criticised. That's actually a compliment.
No, I agree. I wholeheartedly agree.
Not criticising what they do there.
No, I agree with you.
But the rule is wrong.
Yep, I think so too.
Be tweaked. Obviously, we don't want anyone injured. But if you're going for the ball, the other guy gets it, and you're not taking their legs out or doing anything that's dangerous to their health, but you're simply trying to stop the ball going on the ground, then that's okay. And as I agree with what you said, we're 1-on-1. But anyway, we'll move on from that. The reality is, I think the Storm are a better team than the Bulldogs. The last time we did our podcast, I talked about the Bulldogs and said, look, I think they're a good team. They're not a great team. And I said they've got, well, obviously Crichton, Kikau are elite players. Matt Burton's a really good player. Preston, I think, is a really good player. But the others are all workmanlike. And they got dominated by the Roosters last week. I do believe Tupanua is listed on the extended bench. I do expect if he's fit, he'll play. They need someone with that sort of grunt. Sam Hughes and Max King, to me, are not... Well, Max King played for New South Wales this year, but you don't fear him.
I agree, but yeah, I got my theory on what Max.
I know they got Thompson coming next year, and that'll make him a much stronger team. But I don't think this is a great side. I think they've probably, the position they're in on the ladder, congratulations to them. They have actually played some really good football, and have won a lot of games. But I think we'll see what we saw last year, where they got to the semis and they went out in straight sets.
Yeah.
I think the other teams at the top of the ladder, apart from the Warriors, I don't consider the Warriors a chance with the injuries they've got, but Penrith, Canberra, Melbourne, I'll throw in the Roosters, I'll throw in the Broncos, are all, to me, a better chance of winning this competition than the Bulldogs, simply because of the fact they've got better players.
Yeah,
and
I agree. I think,
and they might prove me wrong, but I just think they're a little bit limited. Yeah. I understand why. Well, I sort of understand why they brought in Galvin, because I guess they thought, well, Sexton, he's a good player, but is he going to win us games in September? The answer to that obviously was no. It looks like they're heading the same way with Reid Marnie, who, from what I'm hearing, is unlikely to take a spot on the bench, given that they probably need another forward on there.
Yeah.
If he's only going to play a short period of time. But I'm not convinced Bailey Haywood is a better player than Reid Marnie.
No, not defensively. And I think that's what I think coach is hedging his bets. I think he knows what he needs. But if they get torn up the middle, Reid Marnie will be on there in a heartbeat, tackling that.
But when he got out there last week, it was too late.
I know, that's exactly right. And next, for the Dogs, they play the Panthers next week on Thursday night, and then they've got the Sharks. So this could be a time of...
They literally could lose the last 3 games.
They could definitely lose the last 3 games. And I think that for me, I'd want to have my team done sold by now. And I think they're a team. Yeah. You never want to criticize a coach. That's a job that's just nuts. But if you're not sold on your starting 13 by now, I question what September looks like for you.
Well, he may be sold on it, Shane.
Yeah, maybe. I
mean, he's done enough tinkering, so.
Well, then throw bloody throw.
But what he's putting out there is not proving successful.
No, throw money into the bloody New South Wales Cup. Give them a chance.
Anyway, I'm tipping the Storm.
Yes, so am I. So anyway, on Saturday, first game, 3:00 at 4 Pines Park Stadium, Sydney. 4 Pines Park.
The stadium?
No, it's not a stadium.
It's park.
Well,
you've got to be
kidding yourself.
You've got to be what Cronulla put out
Christ.
to be a stadium.
Yeah, jeez. Jesus. It's the worst ground. It's the worst ground to watch rugby.
Whoever came up with that,
it's the poorest ground. You know what? Literally, you know the best place to watch rugby league at the Shark Park? It's that freaking stupid set of stairs in the middle of that. Everywhere else, it's the ground's weird. I hate going to Shark Park to watch.
Well, it's interesting. You see all these empty seats that they can't access because I believe the Leagues Club is closed, and those top tier seats on the when you're looking at the screen, it's always fully empty. Yep. So I think it's something to do with work,
health and safety,
or not happening in the Leagues Club. It's embarrassing.
Oh, it's
embarrassing. They should not be playing a finals game there.
I'll never forget. There was a night there. I watched rugby league, and our leader was working for the South Sydney Rabbitohs at the time, and we were watching the game with the injured Rabbitohs players, and we were giving the ground quite a bit of stick for its viewing pleasure. And the players were giving it just as much stick for its playing pleasure. They said so much. They said, mate, like, you know, when the full-time hooter goes, just get in the bus because you're in a better state than going back to this shit. Anyway,
it's the only. I think still I can make this statement. It's the only ground that is privately owned. So the club owns the ground.
Yes.
So. The government doesn't pump money into it because it's not their ground.
No.
I mean, it's an embarrassment.
Yeah,
it really is.
Anyway.
They had a couple of years off there. They were playing at Jubilee. What did they do in those 2 years? I don't know.
Who knows?
I don't know.
They were building that bloody... Weren't they building the high rises next to it?
I don't know. There is a lot of high rise there. And
because they used to be car park back on.
Yeah, but it was all fortunately, and the Sharks traditionally were a very poor club, and it wasn't until those developments got approved
that's true. That's very true. They sold off the land.
Saved the club, and that's good. You know, that's a good.
That's
thing.
Good. You want Cronulla to have a team there, but geez,
I actually looked at. You know, I never actually went and looked at any apartments, but I spent a bit of time thinking about possibly moving there to one of those apartments. I didn't end up doing it, but it's a nice part of Sydney.
It's a lovely part of the world.
Yeah, apart from the ground itself.
No. Well, I don't go fishing on the ground, so I don't care. But yeah, when I watch football, I don't go watch football there anymore. It's just annoying, and parking's crap. Anyway, we have a 4 Pines Park, Sydney. Brookvale Oval, if you want to call it, if you want to be nostalgic. We have the 10th place Manly Warringah Seagulls taking on the Redcliffe Dolphins. Ruben Garrick is out. James Walsh is out. Looking at these teams, Tom Trbojevic and the Hammer, they're both at fullback for this game. We see Luke Brooks, Nikorima, Daly Evans, Katoa, 5/8 and halves. Jake Simpkin up against Jeremy Marshall-King, and Jazz Tavanga up against Kurt Donohoe. It's making for a really interesting match. The interchange bench for these sides, if they're 1-17, this is going to be such an interesting game. We've got Shoop Dog there. We've got Smashing Baby.
Shoop Dog's there. He's made the 17.
What's that?
He's made the 17.
Shoop Dog's made the 17. Yeah, I know.
Hating, man, but yeah,
that's what I'm saying. That's what I want to say. I got the Shoop Dog and Smashing Baby. They're both there. Mark Nichols is also in the 17.
Look, Rugby League favourites.
couple of our favourites there. Big names coming in. Not really, just for Carpool Rugby League. Look, I don't know who to pick in this one, Griffo. I'm looking at these two sides, and I know we always say when you don't know who to pick the home team. I just saw something in Manly last week that was just awful. And I just think this game's made for a guy like the Hammer. I think the Hammer, Jermaine Osako, that it's rare you say that the fullback and the winger made a difference. I think they're going to make a difference in this game. I think Daly Cherry Evans, I think his whole move to the Roosters, well, that's put on. That's all. The ice has been dumped on that pretty quickly since Walker's playing the football he's playing. I'm tipping the Dolphins. I'm tipping the Dolphins to win this away from home. I think that what I saw last week was an absolutely defeated Seagulls side, and I think the Dolphins with the Hammer at fullback, I think it's just going to be I think the Dolphins last week would look at the game and go, far out. We're our own worst enemy. If we improve this, we win. If the Dolphins play against the Seagulls the way they played last week, they probably beat the Seagulls of last week. So I've got the Dolphins winning, Griff.
Yeah, I agree with you to a point. I'll say that if the Dolphins play like they did to the point where I think they led 28 points to 14, they'll win. But then they capitulated.
Yeah,
I tipped the Dolphins last week,
yes,
and I was, pretty happy with the way things were going. They were 14 in front, I think, early in the second half. They didn't score again, and the Broncos, well, I don't know how many tries they scored. This is a team who is still severely depleted by injury. They've got a chance of making the 8. As have Manly, I think. They're 2 points ahead of the West Tigers, and the West Tigers are talking up, they can still make the 8. Well, the mathematicians have got to do all sort of backflips for that to happen, but Manly are actually a win ahead. I can't see them doing it because they're... You mentioned that, I think, the term totally defeated. It wasn't just on the scoreboard. They were mentally... shattered. The team has imploded. The club has imploded, and they're just, I don't know, they've got a coach. This is the third time that this has happened. Now, I know you're not a big fan of Anthony Seibold.
I was talking to someone the other week, right, about Seibold, and at South Sydney, to his credit, and I think he inherited a brilliant team. I actually think it was Maguire's doing that he inherited, right? The problem with Seibold is he thinks too much about himself. And when you look at certain coaches and who they want and what they want to do, the idiot has just zigged when he should zag. And the one time he had the opportunity, I agree with you. I think he had the Holy Grail at Souths and chased something different. He got what he wanted. And was horrible. He just can't motivate this team to win. And I don't know whether it's the classic Manly needs a Manly coach. He just can't motivate them to do what they need to do. He just doesn't have it in him.
I was having a conversation with someone about him either today or yesterday, and I said, it's not something new. Like,
No,
this
it's
has happened
not.
in other places. He seems to come into a club and maybe things go okay for a little bit, but quickly they turn for the worse. And it's not a good thing going on at Manly there. Like, if you look at their squad, there's a lot of talent. Turbo was turnstile last week. He was awful.
He was.
And
He
doesn't tend to get criticised like other players do.
Can I say something without disrespect? He looks like a player who's had enough.
Well, it doesn't.
He did last week. Last week he looked like a player.
I thought he was injured. I don't know.
Yeah, he just needs to have a break.
Like, guys just went straight past him.
He needs a Kit Kat.
I don't know. Like, he is one of the elite players in the competition, and I know he's been savaged by injuries, which has been a great tragedy because
of course,
he could have been one of the all-time greats.
Yeah,
and he has been. He's had a very good career, and I love to watch him at his best. But he is a shadow of his best.
Yeah, I agree with that.
The West Tigers are not known as one of the greats of the NRL, but they just made him look second rate, and because he is who he is, and he's so respected and liked in the game, and rightly so, the commentators don't really mention too much when he misses tackles, like some horrible attempts at tackles. Whereas if it was another player, they'd probably highlight that a little bit more. I thought he got off very, very lightly, and Brooks and Cherry Evans got criticised, and they played poorly. But Turbo was just as bad and just didn't get a mention. Talatau Kola is the only guy in this team that looks like being dangerous, and he's scored 3 great tries in the last 2 games, and they may have been the only, I might be wrong, but they may have been the only tries that Manly got. So he's holding his head high. Maybe he should be the number 1 for Manly. Turbo was going okay in the centres, but they put him back to fullback, and it just hasn't worked. But I mean, nothing's worked. Their forwards are not strong, and I know they've had injuries, but so I'm tipping almost the Dolphins by default.
Yeah, that's me, mate. That's why I've got it.
Yeah, I mean, Manly should win this game. If you look at the 2 teams, both are affected by injuries, but probably the Dolphins more so.
Herbie Farnworth is massive.
So, Farnworth gone. That was pretty much season over for them. The Hammer is a frustrating player for me when I tip the Dolphins and I look for him to win a game for him, but he just seems to disappear. Like, when he's involved, he's almost unstoppable. But he disappears. And they were up by 14 points. They were double the Broncos' score early in the second half, and they went to sleep. And, obviously I wanted the Dolphins to win because I don't like the Broncos, but I actually tipped the Dolphins and thought they could do that. And from where they were, they should have won. But they just, as I said, they just capitulated, and Hammer wasn't seen. Anyway, I'm tipping them this week with not a huge amount of confidence, but they are still a genuine chance of making the 8. So they've got everything to play for.
Yep, I agree. Saturday, 5:30, we see the Gold Coast Titans taking on the New Zealand Warriors. Jamin Jolliffe out, Freddie Lussick, Jackson Ford out. You can play into that what you will. Jojo Fafita is in for the Titans, Khalees Haas is on the interchange bench. We have a few things happening with the Warriors. Mainly on so Tamario Martin, he's on the interchange bench, and then everyone else seems to be on an extended bench. Kurt Capewell comes into the second row for the Warriors. Mate, the Warriors should win this and win this well. But it just depends on what Warriors team decides they want to turn up. The Warriors this year have actually played some really good football. I think the biggest problem the Warriors have is they look at a guy like RTS and you know he'll play a good game somewhere and a poor game next week. The forward pack for the Warriors is by far more demanding than the Gold Coast Titans. I think this is a game where if the Warriors want to go, let's leapfrog into the finals. Like, Warriors win this week, they're playing finals football. So they have to find something to hang their hat on. This might be the week to do it. Gold Coast have been playing some very good football of late, and it's just come down to the fact that they're completing sets, they're doing the little things well, and the forwards are happy to get in the grind. And look, Big Tino, he would end up playing in any club in the NRL. If he turns up this week, and I think he will, because he's just so good. Big Tino, if he can push the Titans to great heights, well then they might be right in this contest. I just think when the Titans this week would be, their narrative is how do we get off the bottom. The Warriors' narrative is how do we stay in the top four. They're very different conversations, although they feel the same. I think the Warriors have got it, but geez, I think they've got it only just.
Yeah, I'd agree with a lot of what you said. If you were telling me that this time last week, I thought the Titans were disgraceful against the Sharks.
Yeah.
I didn't know the score. I just watched the mini. But the defense of this team was pathetic. I don't understand this team. They're chock full of talent, great attacking players. But, I've got to tip the Warriors. I know that the Titans beat them only maybe 3 weeks ago. It's not the strongest Warriors team, and I don't believe the Warriors are going to do anything in the finals. I think they'll probably make the top four, but they'll be straight out the back door because of injuries to key players. I just don't think this 17 stacks up against the other top sides at all. I do believe they'll win this game because they want to keep that spot in the top four. There's a lot of motivation for the Titans. They can get off the bottom of the ladder. Newcastle won't win another game, but the Titans do have to win another game to get level on points. And this is probably one of their better chances. So they've got a lot to play for, the Titans. But on what I saw last week, they were just dreadful. So I can't tip them. So again, almost by default, I'm going Warriors here.
Yeah. Saturday, 7:35 at CommBank Stadium in Sydney sees the Parramatta Eels taking on the Sydney Roosters. Look, I suppose Daniel Tupou, he is out for the Roosters. Not a lot of other... Junior Tupou, he's coming in on the wing.
Yeah, one Tupou for another.
Tupou.
Yep.
Sandon Smith named on an extended bench. It'd be interesting to see what role he may or may not play.
He won't play at all.
Yeah, look. I think the Roosters are one of the most dangerous sides in the competition at the moment. I think I think a lot of hate goes to their defence at times. I think Robert Toya is one of the best defensive centres in the competition. He showed it in Origin, and he's showing it in the NRL. He is someone who just tightens things up. On the other side, on the outside, you've got one of the what seems to be revelations in Marky Mark playing. They're behind a very good forward pack who are just ticking boxes, and a bench that does like for like. I've got to say, one of the key things in Robinson, and no other coach does it better than him, is he creates an interchange bench which is like for like. When a player comes on, he does the same job as the player coming off. Spencer Leniu, when you get a guy like that who's part of that, it's just phenomenal to watch. They're up against the Parramatta Eels, who, look, I think Eels fans every week go, what Eels side are we going to get? An Eels side with Mitch Moses is far better, but they just keep coming up without answers, and I think this is a problem for them. They don't have the ammunition really to bother a team like the Roosters. I think the Roosters will win this, and they may win it well, Griff.
Yeah, I agree. I tipped Parramatta last week. I was pretty confident that they'd beat South because the Eels had been playing good footy and Souths were down on troops. And Souths just stuck to their guns. I was very disappointed in their performance. It was a bit, they've been getting a lot of sort of applause and people saying, they're building well, Riles is doing a good job, etc., etc. They were playing a good brand of rugby league, and all of that was true. But it all went out the window last week when they couldn't beat an understrength South Sydney side, especially when Latrell pulled out due to injury. You would have thought that they'd account for the Rabbitohs, but they didn't. And the Roosters are a much stronger outfit at the moment than the Rabbitohs. So I can't see Parramatta winning this game. They would have to turn around greatly from what they produced last week. They've got some good attacking weapons there, but I think the Roosters, who are heading for finals football, they're not going to slip up in this game. I might be wrong, but I'll be highly surprised if we don't see a Roosters victory. And as you said, they know how not just to win a game, but to absolutely sort of decimate opposition when they get on top. But they got plenty of points in them, and I think that may be the way it goes.
Yeah. 2:00 at McDonald Joe Stadium in Newcastle. We see the Newcastle Knights taking on the Brisbane Broncos. I suppose for Newcastle, Phoenix Crossland, he's back. He's in the number 9. So that's an in for them. Look, the Jack Drogeski, he's out for the Broncos. They're pretty much 1-17 as they have been. This is a team of haves versus a team of have-nots at the moment in more ways than one. Last week I saw a Knights team that would we're teachers. It's like the kid who does all this research, who writes down all this stuff but fails to submit the assignment. That's the Knights at the moment. they do the hard yards. They do the things they need to do well. They get in the, they're happy to attack. And then all of a sudden they'll be like, oh, well, we'll just knock on instead of scoring the try. Or we'll cover tackle, but no one will be in the middle. It's these fundamental, silly mistakes that's just like, for the Knights, it's just killing them. And like I saw a guy last week in Bradman Best, and we talk about Bradman Best as being one of the really good players in our competition, and I just went, mate, if a talent scout was at the game, they'd gloss over the lot of you. The only player that I'd actually give any kudos to is Tyson Frizzell. Because you know what? That guy bloody puts his heart in week in, week out. He's cover tackling. He's running down bloody backs. He's doing stuff. Methuselah is doing stuff that these young guys should be doing. There is an attitude problem at the Knights. And I know Adam O'Brien's head's on the chopping block. That attitude problem is not helping his cause one iota. At the Broncos, on the other hand, Reece Walsh really stepped up. And look, I know Billy Walters and Ben Hunt are named at 6 and 7, but geez, the more you can get the ball in Reece Walsh's hands, the better this club looks. Their forward pack is doing the little things well, driven by people like Corey Jensen, Payne Haas. Patrick Carrigan is finding form. I won't say he's there yet of a few years ago. He's doing some really good things well. Jesse Arthurs, Kobe Hetherington on the bench. I think the Broncos have far more guns than the Knights. I think the Knights might get towelled this week because the Broncos just need to win. And I think they're going to find some very, very good value out wide with Karapani, Staggs, Shibasaki and Mariner. I really think that they're going to get early ball out wide. This is what's going to be. It's going to be like, you're basically going to hear that people like, it's going to be Payne Haas plays the ball, Corey Paxton a hooker, out to Billy Walters out to Jaden Hunt, just to Katoni Staggs, and that's it. You're going to hear that all game. They're just going to go either side wide, and they're going to score very easily. Broncos easily, Griff.
Can't argue with any of that. It's a lopsided game here. The Knights they're just making up the numbers in the competition at the moment. I know they've, had a lot of injuries this year, but this team is, as I said, I didn't watch the game last week. I think I might have seen one Cowboys try, and I found something else to do. I don't know if I'll be watching this game either. It's just going to be a one-way traffic. Broncos, even though they're missing some key men, there's still plenty of attacking power in that side, and you would expect Reece Walsh is going to have a field day. And I want to see the Knights win, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, I agree. Last game on Sunday, that cleans up round 25, is the West Tigers taking on the North Queensland Cowboys at Leichhardt Oval in Sydney. Both teams are pretty much 1-17 as they have been last week. It's going to be... Look, the West Tigers have found... I'm not going to say found some form. That's the wrong term. The West Tigers... Benji Marshall has instilled something in this side that when it all clicks, they play very good football. And I'm not saying they play top 8 football. That's ridiculous. But they play very good football. They are very competitive, and they do all the little things well. they're ticking the boxes that they weren't ticking when they were wooden spooners. I think that they've got this. I think they've actually got the nucleus of something that they can build upon. Adam DeWahey he's winding back the clock. Appy's doing a great job. Jerome Luai as the captain, he's, we're highly critical of a team when they lose. I can safely say that the West Tigers have had effort. That's the difference. Last year and the year before, there were times where you went, there's no effort there. They just don't want to be there. And you know what? You could chuck the best player in the rugby league into this team. That doesn't account for the gaps elsewhere. So I think Benji Marshall, to his credit, has actually done a really good job. The North Queensland Cowboys on the other side of the ledger. I know you said earlier about the game last week, watching them. I find them to be such a bland rugby league club. When they win, and I don't mean any disrespect here or hate, it's almost like the other team lose it more than they win it. There's just something about this North Queensland Cowboys side. And we can go through names. We can go through Ruben Cotter, Jeremiah Nanai, John Bateman, JT Tomolomo, Reece Robson, Origin player, Jordan McLean. But their forward pack, it's like, at one stage, that would be an insane forward pack to have. Tom Dearden, Jake Clifford, people like Scott Drinkwater. These are people who were, why you got Braden Burns there's another question. But they're players I've just named that over the past three years you'd go, I would love them to be at my club. They've made massive impacts. The problem is they've collectively gone to the Cowboys, and I thought Todd Payton did a brilliant job when he was at the Warriors that year. But since coming to the Cowboys, there's just this underwhelming sense of what's needed. I've got the Tigers winning this one. I actually think that Benji's lifting a team where the Cowboys are just... They're in gumboots stuck in 5 feet of cement. They are struggling to get themselves out. I know they won last week, but geez, there's an argument to say that one team lost it more than another team won it. I think the Tigers win this, Griff. That's just my thoughts.
Yeah, I can't disagree. The Tigers are playing good football. They seem to have discovered an identity. They're playing as very much as a united team now, and they look dangerous in attack. I didn't watch the Cowboys game. They obviously had a big win. They'd been in dreadful form before that, but they smashed the Knights. That may give them some confidence. I mean, they've got some good weapons to fire, with the likes of Drinkwater, Dearden, Nene. There's pace there with Purdue, so they could offer some resistance, but I just find this team difficult to select unless they're playing the Newcastle Knights, or maybe if they were playing the Titans. But I'm going to stick with the Tigers. It's a big day for them, Leichhardt Oval. You'd expect it'll be full. I don't know what, the rain's going to stop or not, but there's going to be a lot of support for the West Tigers there. And an unusual thing really for them is an expectation of victory. No, and I don't mean that.
No, I agree. I agree.
They very much go into this game expecting to win. And that's not normally the case. Well, it might be from within their four walls, but I think they're developing confidence that they're actually playing good rugby league, and that's why I think they'll win.
Well, Griffo, that pretty much does us for this week. So that's all the games in the NRL 4 round 25. We're nearing the finals, Griff. It's salivating, and there's some great rugby league matchups coming up, and I think it's fair to say Friday's the pick of the bunch.
I think so. Yeah, it's going to be a big night, Friday night, with two massive games of what most people would say are probably the 4 best teams in the competition at the moment. But the Warriors obviously are in the top 4. Panthers just outside it. But it's a big round for both ends of the table. But obviously, most interest is in Friday night's games with the 4 teams that really would believe they all can win the competition. So it's going to be good. Enjoy the football, listeners. Thank you for being with us again, and look forward to coming back next week and having a look at just particularly how those big games panned out, because I think they might tell us a lot about who's going to win the comp.
Fully agree, Griff. Again, thank you for being a part of this. Thank you, listeners, and take care. Have a good week. Hope your team wins. In case you go, unless you go for the Dragons, in which I hope you lose horribly. But other than that, have a good week, everyone.
Bye-bye.